A few days ago, Blizzard released this blue post, talking about their design philosophy for WoW Classic Season of Mastery, aka Fresh, and what exactly it is and isn't. In this post, they went through some issues the community had, expanded on their reasoning for bringing the changes they brought, but most importantly, they said this: these are just changes we've announced so far, and we're still reviewing feedback and suggestions from the community. There's certainly room to include additional adjustments if they're consistent with this season's design goals. So this inspired me to make this video, because Classic WoW ran for almost 2 years before transitioning to TBC, and during that time, the community brought up many suggestions and ideas to make the game better. And even today, after the announcement of Season of Mastery, many players, me included, thought of things that could improve the game in many different ways that weren't announced yet. So without further ado, here's 5 changes that could make Classic WoW Season of Mastery even better. Let's get into it. Alright, number 1. One big hassle in Classic, which is actually part of the way the game was designed, is switching specializations. Switching specs in Classic is a big deal. For the most part, when you choose something, you're expected to stick to it. Unless you want to pay a huge respec fee every time and reorganize your bars. I think personally, in Classic, I only ever respect once in all my characters, and that's when I reached level 60 to go on my raiding spec and never change again. However, I know a lot of players, both in my guilds and also people that I played with, which respect way more often than that. Sometimes on a weekly or even bi-weekly basis. Considering the respecking cost goes up to 50 gold, that's 100 gold down the drain every time they want to go on their PvP spec or tank a raid, for example. Well, that's why some people are asking for dual specs. Dual Spec was introduced in Wrath of the Lich King, and it allowed you to have 2 talent trees that you can switch between for free whenever you want. If you wanted to respec one of those talent trees, that usual cost would still apply, but all things considered, this allowed players way more freedom in the content they wanted to dabble in with their character. Could this be something that Blizzard could introduce for SoM? Probably. Is it a good idea to have it? I don't know. That's up to you guys to discuss. So let me guys know what you think of this in the comments. In fact, I'm acting as a neutral agent here. It's up to you guys to discuss whether you like or dislike a change that I mentioned here in the comments. So take some notes and post them at the end of the video. Moving on, obviously when Blizzard announced SoM and the fact that world buffs would no longer be a thing in raids there, a lot of people cheered for this, but a lot of people also disliked that.
With that in mind, we're planning a few changes to make those early raid bosses pack a bit more of a punch and attempt to recapture the original challenge they present. These changes currently include, but are not limited to, world buffs like Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer are disabled in raid instances. Okay, cool. Anyways, looking forward to TBC speedruns. That should be fun.
Because this takes away one of the things that the most hardcore players enjoyed in the game, speedrunning, and the exciting feeling that any mistake would end your run right away. Obviously, world buffs are disliked by some players, me included, because they make your character way too powerful, and if you're not gonna take them, you're basically giving up on more than half your DPS for some classes. And also, when you get them, you have to log off to preserve them. Blizzard obviously solved that last part by introducing the Chrono Boon Displacer at the end of Classic, which is apparently still going to be sold by Chromie in SoM, so that's no longer an issue. But here's an idea to keep world buffs in raids for those hardcore speedrunners, but also have them not feel forced on people who don't want them in the game. Speedrunning was only really a thing in Classic during Dark Moon Fair week, the first Sunday of every month, and that was an exciting time for the whole community. Well, have world buffs allowed in raids during Dark Moon Fair week only, and maybe even disable them for the first couple weeks of a raid release in case the MF overlaps with the raid release, so that people who want to progress and compete with the other guilds can all do so with the same power level, pro or against world buffs. What this does is it allows players who want to speedrun to still speedrun, and they could only do that during the MF week previously anyways, while also allowing people who don't want to use world buffs to not feel forced to use them, since they're only effective 1 out of 4 weeks of the month anyways. Obviously, this idea probably has its flaws, but I think this is a step in the right direction. What do you guys think about it? Alright, moving on, one idea that was brought up by the community and that Blizzard actually answered is the idea of having more loot drop in every raid. Because Season of Mastery only lasts 1 year, with a couple months between the phases, players feel like it's only fair to make the loot be more abundant to offset how little time we have to raid in between the phases. Blizzard basically said no here. We feel that loot scarcity was an important part of what made the original World of Warcraft challenging and hope to recreate that feeling. Of course, we'll be watching this closely and are open to adjustments here if we identify a need. Well, that settles it then, right? That's a no. Or does it? Loot scarcity is indeed what makes it so that your guild isn't overdecked with all the latest gear before the next raid even releases. But how about only applying that to the previously released raids and not the current ones? If you do that, for example, AQ40 will be released say on August, and the moment AQ releases, you can make BWL bosses drop say 4 or 5 pieces of loot each instead of 2 or 3. That way, when next releases, say in November, guilds aren't stacked in AQ gear like it was the case in the first iteration of Classic. But for those guilds that went the extra mile, everyone would have their Dragonfang Talisman or their Neltharion Steer by the time next releases. I think this would solve the issue. Only make the non-current phase raid drop more loot. Let me guys know what you think about this in the comments. Another thing that Blizzard actually talked about and gave basically a no is the improvement of the PvP honor system. So in vanilla, in the first iteration of Classic, the rank 14 grind was a huge time sink that was prestigious for anyone who accomplished it, but also incentivized unhealthy playing habits and only rewarded people who had the most time to spend rather than the people who had the most skill. So a lot of people are suggesting to make that grind less brutal, maybe cut it by half. Blizzard obviously said no. To quote them again, achieving rank 14 in original World of Warcraft was always meant to be a prestigious accomplishment that few players obtained. We feel that maintaining that level of prestige is important, and we've got to consider how it will play out with the honor system active from the moment Season of Mastery launches. This is especially difficult considering how powerful the honor gear is for many classes. Well, it looks like they have two issues here. They want to preserve the level of prestige that rank 14 has, and also they are considering how powerful the gear you get from it is. Well, Redditor HiCTV is suggesting this. I'll let you read through it if you want, but in short, in phase 1, everyone is capped at rank 10. In phase 2, people can reach rank 14, but the gear matches BWL power level. And then, each phase the PvP gear goes up in power to match the current phase. HiC also suggests a different approach to how players rank up. I'll let you read through it if you want, but let us know what you think of this in the comments and if you think this solves the issue Blizzard has. Alright, the next change that a lot of people are asking about, and that is a huge change arguably, is a redesign of underperforming classes. Obviously, Blizzard went ahead and disabled the debuff limit. A lot of people think that this is a renaissance for boomkins and warlocks, but actually not really. You being able to use a couple more debuffs that were selected to not be used when there was a debuff limit anyways because they were so weak isn't gonna make a huge difference to your DPS. What would make a huge difference is if Blizzard decided to actually tweak the damage, or even tanking for some classes. For example, Paladins could highly benefit from a taunt and maybe a bigger mana pool to finally be able to tank. Not having a taunt is probably Paladin's #1 flaw when it comes to tanking. Obviously, warrior tanks are still gonna be the #1 choice because Fury tanking is just so efficient at holding aggro when everyone else is pumping, but that's not a reason to not tweak Paladin tanks. Boomkins just do horrible damage and basically bring nothing to the raid. There's 50 different things Blizzard could do about this. Same thing for Red Paladins, Enhancement Shamans, or Shadow Priests. There's so many small things that Blizzard could do that would make at least a raid leader go, why not, when they see one of those underdog classes whispering them to invite them. Now, of course, that's a big change, and that could have repercussions on the whole game, but I really think it's worth trying at least. When you have 40 players in your raid and half of them are warriors, you know something is wrong. And that's coming from someone who mained warrior in Classic. There's actually a whole Reddit post from Redditor Flying Squirrel that goes over some of these small changes that would go a long way into making classes better. Finally, here's some quick-fire ideas that I gathered here and there. Some of them I think are interesting. Have your first character level 25% faster, but have the leveling buff go up by 5% for each character that reaches 60, up to maybe 45% or 50. Make the manual crowd pummeler not have 3 charges only, and give it a long cooldown instead. That way druids won't have to farm that dungeon every week. If you're not gonna add dual spec, have the respec cost significantly lower, like probably capped at 10 gold or something. Bots. Something needs to be done about bots. And finally, remove the battle masters to queue into battlegrounds in the first couple phases to have people actually move to the battleground entrances. This makes the world feel a bit more alive. And whatever idea you guys have, drop it in the comments. But with that, those were 5 ways Blizzard could make Classic WoW's Season of Mastery even better. Some of these ideas were from me, and some others I found on Reddit and on the WoW forums. So now, if by chance a Blizzard dev stumbles on this video, it's your guys' time to shine. Give us your opinions on the ideas mentioned here in the comments, and potentially suggest more ideas that would make the game even better. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a like and subscribe to the Classic WoW Curios channel for more content like this. I will see you all in the next one very soon. Bye for now.